Welcome to episode 2 of the Bachelorette recap. As you can see, we clearly filmed this on separate days because we're wearing different shirts. This is not just Megan's shirt that I'm wearing, and that is not my shirt that she's wearing from the last video. And we did not just move to the other side of the children's playroom inside of the apartment complex in which we live. None of those things actually happened. But either way, welcome back. Thanks for watching. If you haven't seen the first half of this episode, it was for the first half of the Bachelorette episode that took place on the, what is today, 26th? 27th. Yeah, it aired, and it's just before this one on YouTube, so you can go watch it. It may...
That one aired on the 26th.
On the 26th.
This one that we're recording now, the episode itself, aired on the 27th.
Yeah, so this is part 2 of a 2-part Bachelorette night of fun. Nights of fun. Very confused. So, to get us started, we're going to begin with the Best Dressed Award. Megan, who was the best dressed this time?
So this time we decided to give the award to Alex. He usually dresses really interestingly, but particularly for this week, they had a group date. They were in Norway? No, Denmark. Copenhagen. And they had a Vikings group date. They all had to dress like Vikings, and it was really funny. And they all head to toe in like old-time Viking garb with helmets and everything. And so we decided to give best dress to Alex in his Viking outfit because it just suited him so well.
Yeah.
I think the most of all of the guys.
Yeah.
You could believe that that's just what he wore, and that was okay.
Absolutely, it totally fit him. Dean, on the other hand, did not look at home in Viking outfits. So, next up, most adorable. Now, for those of you that watched this episode, this won't come as a huge surprise because there were a couple adorable things this episode, but the most adorable for us went to Kenny. Now, Kenny got the All the Feels award in the last awards episode that we gave out for many reasons, but just because he's generally a good guy.
Because it was the conversation with his daughter.
Yes, exactly. And so for today, we gave him the most adorable award because he, as you saw in the last episode, kind of went toe-to-toe with Lee a little bit and ended up getting to stick around. Lee got sent home. Rachel kind of saw through Lee's dishonesty and sent him home, and Kenny got to stick around, which was really cool. But they kind of had some weirdness on their date. They started off pretty strong in this season, but over time, Kenny kind of started to get stuck in the stuff that Lee was bringing to the table, and it kind of started to conflict with Rachel's perspective of Kenny, and Kenny was afraid they weren't going to be able to recover from that, and you could definitely tell he was missing his daughter. So being a really good guy, he brought it all up to Rachel and expressed his concerns. They talked about it, and they kind of came to the mutual conclusion that that it may be time for Kenny to go back home and be with his daughter instead. And the reason why we're giving him the most adorable award is just the fact that he handled that like a total pro. And after everything that he went through and all the things he was accused of and the kind of ways that it kind of warped Rachel's mind and her perspective of him, he still remained just a really great guy. We have a lot of respect for him. But that also kind of carries in...
Yeah.
What?
I was also going to add to what was so adorable about that piece too, was that as they were leaving, they were both just like saying bye to each other, like bye babe, bye boo, bye sweetheart. And then as they were driving off, one of the last quotes that he had when he was talking to the camera was that if his daughter grew up to be like Rachel Lindsay one day, he would know that he had done his job well. Yeah. Which was just adorable.
It was really cute. It was really, really cool.
And then, sorry, I was going to give you the segue. And then right after he said that, he called his daughter.
Yes, exactly. Which, you know, if you've watched any of these episodes, like the moment he starts talking to his daughter, he just starts weeping, which is always really precious because he is a professional wrestler. He's an enormous dude. He looks pretty intimidating. So when he starts to cry, it's just really, really precious. So the All the Feels award for this week we're giving to Kenny. Kenny gets the most adorable and the all the feels award this week. All the feels because of just how he handled that whole conversation before, and then got on the phone with his daughter and was speaking with her and kind of telling her that he was going to be coming back home. And the thing that really like broke us down was when his daughter was telling him how proud she was of him and how thankful she was of him, and she's pretty young, and just the fact that she could express that stuff to Kenny, you could tell that it meant the world to Kenny to hear that coming from his daughter, and especially when he was choosing to leave something as big as the Bachelorette to go back to her, and it was really, really touching. It was a really touching moment.
Kind of like the epitome of all the feels.
Absolutely. Seriously so. So who was the opposite of that? Who was the most annoying person in this episode?
The most annoying person on this episode, I have to admit, I feel like this episode was just in general kind of annoying to me. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But particularly, there was a gentleman on the show named Josiah. And Josiah was always very full of himself. And specifically the last episode, when he and Rachel were talking, she said that he never really, she never felt like he was really listening to her. He never asked any questions. He just assumed that he knew her from reading all this stuff online, and never really took the time to be with her. And you could really tell that was the case. And so right before the first rose ceremony, because there were two on this episode, but right before the first one, this is usually an indicator that this person is about to leave. But when they were interviewing him, he kept talking about how he's the best choice for Rachel. He is the whole package. He would really think that Rachel had bad judgment if she didn't pick him, and how he wouldn't really trust her judgment if he wasn't the final one, because he, of all the guys, had the most things going on that would work with Rachel. And he's just very haughty and aggressive, and was just kind of belligerent in that in his interviews right before the rose ceremony, and we found that really annoying. And he did not make it through that rose ceremony, and indeed went home.
In fact, too, I feel like pretty early on in the season, when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was there with, watching them all play basketball, I feel like he commented on the fact that Josiah was kind of self-involved. I feel like I remember that happening. So I don't think this is much of a surprise to Rachel.
Maybe.
If she did look back through and watch this. So who was the angriest person?
Was that not Tamari?
No, they talked about Tamari too.
Oh, okay.
Who was the angriest person in this episode?
Well, there wasn't really anybody that was super, super angry. I think that there was some frustration and justifiable anger when, between Kenny and Lee at the beginning of this episode, which we'll touch on that whole situation here in a minute. But we decided to kind of go with a similar theme that you would hear in our episode, our most previous episode. But we're giving the angriest award to Bryan, because Bryan and Rachel had a really great conversation during the group date, and they were talking about families and dads and making out like they do, and then they had a good Peter and Rachel had a really good conversation too. So she ended up giving the group date to Peter, and Bryan's face was just full of anger and disbelief when he saw Peter get the rose.
Yeah.
We thought that would be kind of funny, because we gave Peter most angry last episode because he thought he should have gotten the rose and he didn't. So but this time he did, and Bryan didn't. So it was pretty funny.
It's pretty hilarious. It was a really funny turn of events.
Yes.
So do you want to touch on the weirdness of this episode before you talk about the most likely to succeed, or after?
Doesn't matter.
Who do you think is the most likely to succeed?
This one is a tough one for me on this, because I didn't really feel like there were any standout moments within this episode that just really indicated, oh, this person is going to stay. I think it's pretty obvious for all the viewers that Bryan and Peter, at least at this point in the season, are the highest contenders for Rachel's heart. So I think it's pretty close to a tie. I would say that I'm going to give it to Peter again this week, specifically because the time that we saw them together, the time that the producers decided to show us, it was almost like she was pursuing him.
Mm-hmm.
She kept asking him to kiss her and asking, calling herself his muse and asking him to like come to her. And I haven't seen her act that way with any of the other guys. And it was almost like she was like grabbing for his attention, not that he wasn't showing it to her. And so I feel like her heart is most into him right now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It kind of feeds over a little bit into some of the weirdness that we wanted to talk about in this episode. You want to touch on it first?
Sure.
Okay.
This episode, I think that there was a lot of interesting things that happened. There were a total of 5 guys that went home in this one episode. So, as you can tell, obviously that in and of itself, that's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of cutting.
A lot of cutting. And so, of those 5 people that went home, 4 of them were black. So she only has 1 more black guy on the show, and the rest of the 5 are white. And that's totally fine. It's whoever she's falling in love with.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what kind of was unsettling to me, and again, I'm a white woman, so there are a lot of things I don't understand.
We totally recognize that we don't get the complexities or the depth of what we're about to talk about, but it's also really confusing, so it's worth mentioning.
Yeah. So when she was on her one-on-one date with Will, who is a black man, who currently lives in Miami. I'm assuming he grew up in Miami, but I don't know that for a fact. But he basically told her that he had mainly just dated white women most of his life. His reason was because he went to his school, a high school that was predominantly white, and then went to college that was predominantly white. So in his words, that was the pool that he had to choose from. And the look that Rachel got on her face was a look of total disdain and almost, I'd say, go as far as disgust.
I think, yeah, absolutely.
And she was saying...
Her face totally changed.
Yeah, and she was saying, well, I grew up in that same situation, but I found black men to date, is what she said. And I think the thing that was just kind of just confusing was the fact that she had sent home so many of the black guys, and it's mainly just white men that she's choosing from, or that she's chosen to keep on the show. And so it just kind of was this disconnect. And I don't know all of the reasons, behind all of that, but it just kind of felt weird. And on the same token, she was talking to him about or asked Will if he was nervous around her, and Will said yes. And again, she got this look on her face like, how dare you be nervous around me? And I think she said something along the lines of that, she didn't like that, and he shouldn't be. But then when she was having her alone time with Peter during their group date, she was saying, I just love how much you get nervous. Or he was talking about how he still gets nervous around her, and she was talking about how much she loves that. And there was just a lot of little pieces like that, and often that kind of what appears to the viewer as like hypocritical conversations between the different, or among the different men, tends to start happening around this time in Bachelor and Bachelorette seasons. But those were a couple of the weird things that we saw, that just, there wasn't as much like upbeat, positive connections this time. It just kind of felt a little bit more desperate in general.
It's always a bummer, like Megan said, in The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, any Bachelor Nation show other than Paradise, when you hit that point in the season where the kind of fame and like the being on a pedestal that the Bachelorette or Bachelor has kind of starts to go to their head, and they start just not following through on things they've said to other people. Like Megan pointed out a perfect one of Rachel kind of getting rid of most of the black men in the house, but then also holding it against Will for having a past full of dating white women. it seems a little hypocritical. It seems a little bit strange. Now, if she's not falling in love with any of them and she's feeling more of an emotional connection towards the other white guys in the house, whatever. No one can fault her for that. But then also, like, can she fault Will for the same thing? Like, it seems really hypocritical, and it was a big jump. And honestly, the whole date with Will felt like she was looking for reasons to get rid of him. We really like Will, and reading through people's comments on Twitter while we were live tweeting, that's at present tenses, by the way, capital P, capital T on Twitter, follow along. It's pretty much dormant until we hit Sunday nights, and then we just live tweet the hell for like 2 hours.
Monday nights.
Oh yeah, sorry, Monday nights. So yeah, it looked like she was getting kind of like looking for reasons to get rid of him. And in fact, at one point, she asked him why some of his older relationships had failed. And he was talking about how he's always felt like he kind of gets too physical too fast and doesn't necessarily like commit to the getting to know the person, kind of the emotional side of things. But he also admitted the fact that he was working on it, and that he's trying to be more attentive to like just developing the relationship and getting in deeper with the person emotionally. And you can see that he like definitely is trying to work on conversation, and Rachel said that they always have great conversation, but then she also held it against him for not like holding her hand or kissing him when they were kind of on top of the tower. Like those are the kind of things where she's praising him for the kind of long staying stuff, but then saying that she didn't like the fact that he wasn't just like capturing the moment and just getting all snoggy with her, which is interesting too, because when she was talking to what was his name? Jack? Mm-hmm. The guy she went on a one-on-one date with. This episode, last episode, that was one of the things she had for him was he said that if he could have his way, they would just go back to Dallas and just kind of maybe like hang out in their house, like hang out in the bed and talk for a while and just get to know each other. And that really like was off-putting for her. She didn't like the idea of just kind of laying in bed, cuddling and being intimate and just getting to know each other. So it was also kind of felt like double standard when Will was like showing that he wanted to try to get to know her better and try to get like emotional depth, and she was turned off by that because she wanted physical intimacy. So there's just like a whole lot of mixed signals. And I think one of the things for me that was really weird this episode too was we saw Kenny kind of finally get the justification of Rachel sending Lee home instead of him, and they were leaving, and Kenny and Lee once again threw Kenny underneath the bus in a really terrible way right in front of Rachel at the last second, and that really got under Kenny's skin because he's like, man, just stop lying, like you're going home, why are you still trying to sabotage me? He didn't say that, but that's clearly what he was feeling.
Basically he totally lied and said that Kenny tried to pull him out of a bus.
Yeah.
That they were riding in, and Kenny hadn't touched him at all. Like that was totally made up, and he admitted to Kenny that he made it up.
He also told Rachel that Kenny has alcohol issues, which has never come up. It's never been shown. Whether or not it's true, I doubt it. But whether or not it's true, it was never verified anywhere. So he definitely was messing with Kenny. So at the end of things, and as a guy, I totally get this. Like at the end of things, when they were leaving. Kenny, before he could leave Lee, said to Rachel, I need to go say goodbye to Kenny. Now, a lot of other guys... I'm sorry. I need to go back and say goodbye to Lee. A lot of other guys may have gone back over there to, like, punch him or, like, tell him how horrible of a person that he was. And Kenny did kind of go, like, say, more or less, like, he rubbed it in a little bit. But then at the same time, too, where he left it with Lee was, I know you're a better person. I know there's got to be a better person in there. I hope you see this one day. Like, I hope you see that in yourself one day. And then he left. But while he's telling Lee that, it keeps cutting back to the airplane, or to the helicopter where Rachel's sitting in it. And she's kind of dramatizing, like, oh my God. Oh, I can't believe that he would, like, go over there and talk to Lee instead of just being in here with me. This makes me look terrible. And, like, this is embarrassing for me. And all this other stuff, which felt really ridiculous. Like, we get it. This is a show about her and her needs and her dreams. Whatever, but at the same time too, maybe she just doesn't know at that time just the depth of like what was being said about Kenny from Lee. I'm hoping that if she watched back through this now, she would know that Lee accused Kenny of a whole lot of racial issues, accused him of being violent when he was not, and accused him of that because of alcohol dependency, accused him of that because of racial issues. Just like all kinds of things that just really, really, really were meant to influence and degrade Kenny's character and try to goad him into becoming that person. Kenny always rose above. And at the end of it, before Lee got a chance to leave, Kenny took it on himself to go back to Lee and essentially be like, you can be a bigger man. And I was kind of irritated that not only did it take Rachel so long to see that Lee was totally a snake, but then also that she still made that whole situation about her and how Kenny was choosing to ignore her, when in all actuality he's still standing up for himself, and he's doing that for himself, for his daughter, and in many ways, if he were her husband, he would still do that for him and his family, because that stuff matters. So I don't know, I thought it was kind of sad to start to see that like turning point where the Bachelorette kind of starts to make a bunch of double standards and make more things about herself. That happens in The Bachelor too. It happens on every season, it seems like, and it's just kind of a bummer that we've hit that point. So.
Yeah. But that being said, there are some great things that Rachel's still doing that other Bachelorettes haven't.
Yes.
So, like for example, we were on Twitter and Kayla from Ben's season was talking about, had a really good point of every single person that she sends home, she gives them a reason why and really has these great conversations with them to where there's no mystery whatsoever and they really understand. Yeah. And I really respect that about her. And I also respect the fact that it's refreshing to kind of see somebody that is just like, this is, I don't know, she doesn't seem to be, like super into just like making out with all the guys, and like she's like totally. really looking for like a legitimate relationship.
Absolutely.
And I can't say that was necessary. JoJo, I feel, was the same.
Yeah.
But there a couple of the Bachelorettes before that were pretty.
And many of the Bachelors.
And of course the Bachelors.
Yeah.
I think that's just expected.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Except Ben.
Expected with a lot of people.
Quite a bit too, but.
Yeah. So those are our awards for the for this episode. This has been quite the two-nighter, but we'll be back next week with another.
Tired.
Yeah, you can probably tell we're zoning. We'll be back next week with another one of these. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to get notified whenever another one of these comes out. We also make other videos that are not Bachelorette related, that are just kind of us being silly, talking about things, doing other stuff. So we have a lot of those coming too. So if you like what you see, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and let us know your picks from this episode in the comments below. The categories that we gave awards for are Best Dressed, Most Adorable, the one that gave us all the feels, who is the most annoying, who is the most angry, and who do you think is going to be the person that ends up winning Rachel's heart. Now, if you do actually know, and it's a spoiler because you read it someplace else and that's affirmed, don't leave spoilers in the comments, because that's kind of a bummer. People like me see them and then they don't get to enjoy it anymore. So, no spoilers in the comments, but leave how you actually feel about things. And I think that's about it.
That's it, yeah.
So give it a like, and we look forward to seeing you next time. You ready? Goodbye,
Bye,
folks.